The air smelled like betrayal. Nyxara Verel stood at the center of the ceremonial grounds, her hands trembling despite how tightly she clenched them. Hundreds of wolves surrounded her, watching, whispering, waiting, judging. Her white ceremonial gown clung to her skin like a mockery of purity, the silver threads woven into it glinting under the torchlight. Tonight was supposed to be the most sacred night of her life, the night her mate would claim her, the night she would become queen. Instead, dread curled in her stomach like something alive, because her mate hadn't looked at her once. Alpha King Draven Kalor stood across from her, tall, devastating and cold. His golden eyes that were supposed to burn only for her, were fixed somewhere else, not on her, never on her. Nyxara swallowed hard. "Please, just look at me." But he didn't. The High Elder stepped forward, voice booming across the silent crowd. "Tonight, under the sacred moon, we witness the binding of fated mates, chosen by destiny, blessed by the moon goddess." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Everyone knew. Everyone had always known. Nyxara was the Alpha King's mate, the girl no one respected, the quiet, unwanted stepdaughter, the weakest wolf in the pack. Yet fate had chosen her, and they hated her for it. "Alpha King Draven Kalor," the elder continued, "step forward and claim your mate." Draven moved. Each step was deliberate, heavy, final. Nyxara's heart pounded so violently she thought it might break her ribs. This was it, everything she had endured, every whispered insult, every cold glance, every moment of loneliness. It would all be worth it. Because he would choose her. He had to. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could feel his warmth, close enough to hope. Nyxara lifted her gaze, her voice barely a whisper. "Draven. For a moment, just a moment." His eyes flickered toward her, and in them, there was nothing, no warmth, no desire, no recognition, just cold, ruthless indifference. Her heart cracked, then shattered. "I, Draven Kalor, Alpha King of the Northern Territories," his voice was sharp, merciless. "I reject you, Nyxara Verel." The world stopped. The words echoed like a death sentence. Gasps erupted around them, but Nyxara heard nothing over the roaring silence in her ears. No, this wasn't real. This couldn't be real. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Pain exploded through her chest, raw, violent, suffocating, as the mate bond snapped like a severed thread. She dropped to her knees. A broken sound tore from her throat. "Why?" she whispered. Draven didn't even hesitate. "Because I refuse to be bound to weakness." The crowd murmured louder now. Approval, mockery, satisfaction. Nyxara's vision blurred. Weakness. That's all she had ever been to them. But he wasn't done. "I, Draven Kalor, choose." He turned, and Nyxara felt her soul truly break. Serelith Verel, her stepsister, stepped forward, radiant, smiling, victorious. "Of course," Serelith said sweetly, placing a hand on Draven's arm. "I accept." The crowd erupted into cheers. Cheers for her humiliation, for her destruction. Nyxara couldn't breathe. Her entire body trembled as she forced herself to look up, to meet Serelith's gaze, and what she saw there was not kindness, not even pity, it was triumph. "I'm sorry, sister," Serelith mouthed. But her eyes said the truth. "I won." Something inside Nyxara died in that moment. The High Elder raised his staff. "The bond is broken. The Alpha King has chosen his queen." No one looked at Nyxara anymore. She was nothing now, less than nothing, just a discarded mistake. Draven turned his back on her without a second glance, as if she had never existed. Hours later, Nyxara walked alone. No one stopped her. No one cared. Her dress was torn, her feet bleeding as she stumbled through the dark forest bordering the territory. The forbidden forest, the cursed one, the place no wolf returned from. Good. Let it take her. Let it end. Tears streamed silently down her face as she crossed the invisible boundary. The moment she did, the air changed, colder, heavier, alive. A strange, intoxicating scent wrapped around her, something wild, ancient, dangerous. Nyxara froze. A whisper brushed against her ear, low, male, inhuman, finally. Her breath hitched. She turned slowly. The shadows shifted. And then he stepped out of the darkness, tall, ethereal, terrifyingly beautiful, silver hair cascading like moonlight, eyes glowing with an unnatural predatory gleam. Not a wolf, something far worse, something older. His gaze locked onto her like she was prey or treasure. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice shaking. He tilted his head, studying her like a curiosity. Then he smiled. Sharp, possessive, dangerous. "I've been waiting for you," he said softly. Nyxara took a step back. "I don't belong here." His smile widened. "Oh, little wolf." In a blur, he was in front of her. A hand gripped her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. Magic crackled in the air. Ancient, binding. "You don't belong to them anymore." His voice dropped to a whisper against her lips. "You're mine now." And then, the forest itself seemed to breathe, the shadows wrapped around them. And something unseen sealed her fate. The moment his words settled into the air, "You're mine now," something unseen snapped into place, not like the fragile thread that had once bound her to Draven. No, this was different, heavier, ancient, unbreakable. Nyxara gasped as a violent surge of energy tore through her body. It wasn't pain. Not entirely. It was too much. Too much sensation, too much awareness, too much him. Magic flooded her veins like wildfire, scorching through her chest, wrapping around her heart, sinking into her bones. She stumbled back, but his grip on her chin tightened. "Don't fight it," he murmured, voice low and commanding. "It only hurts more if you resist." I don't want this," she choked, her fingers clutching at his wrist. "Let me go." His eyes flashed. For a brief moment, something dangerous, feral, surfaced beneath his calm. "You crossed into my domain," he said softly. "You breathed my air. You awakened what was waiting." His thumb brushed her lower lip. "And now, you belong to me." Nyxara shook her head, panic rising fast and sharp. No, I don't belong to anyone." A lie. She had belonged. To a mate who rejected her. To a pack that discarded her. To a family that never loved her. And now, no, she whispered again, weaker this time. His gaze darkened, as though he could hear every fractured thought in her mind. "Such defiance," he murmured, almost amused, from something so breakable. Before she could react, he pulled her closer, too close. Her breath hitched as his hand slid from her chin to her throat, not squeezing, but holding, claiming. "Look at me, little wolf." She tried not to. She failed. The moment her eyes locked with his, the world shifted. The forest disappeared. Darkness swallowed everything. And then, she saw it. A throne of twisted thorns rising from an endless abyss, silver vines creeping across black marble, blood dripping like rain from the sky. And him, seated at the center, crowned in something that looked far too much like bones and branches intertwined. Ancient, unyielding, a king not chosen, but feared. Nyxara's breath came out in a broken gasp. "What is this?" she whispered. "My world." His voice echoed around her, everywhere and nowhere at once. She turned, but he was already behind her, hands sliding along her arms, slow, deliberate. "You feel it, don't you?" he murmured against her ear. "The truth of what you are stepping into." "I don't want this," she said again, but the words lacked strength now, because something inside her was responding. To him, to the magic, to the darkness. A warmth curled low in her stomach, unfamiliar and terrifying. His soft chuckle sent a shiver down her spine. "Your body disagrees." Nyxara flushed, anger cutting through the haze. "Stop it!" She shoved against him, but he didn't move, didn't even budge. Instead, his hand caught hers effortlessly, fingers threading through hers as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "You think you can resist me?" he asked, voice dropping into something darker, more dangerous, more real. "You couldn't even hold the loyalty of a wolf." The words hit, hard. Her chest tightened, pain flared. But this time it wasn't from magic. It was from memory, from humiliation, from heartbreak. His expression shifted slightly as he watched her. Not softer, never softer, but more focused, more intent. "Good," he murmured. "Let it hurt." Her eyes snapped to his. "What?" His grip tightened just enough to ground her. "To bind you properly," he said, "you must have nothing left tying you to them." The darkness around them pulsed. The throne, the vines, the blood-red sky. Everything seemed to breathe with his words. Nyxara's heart pounded. "I don't understand. You will." And then he lifted her hand, slowly, deliberately, and brought it to his lips. Her breath caught. This felt different, not like violence, not like force, something worse, something more dangerous, something that felt almost intimate. "Faye, do not take lightly," he said against her skin. "We do not borrow, we do not share." His eyes lifted to hers, burning, possessive. "When we claim, we bind," before she could react. His teeth sank into her wrist. Nyxara screamed. But the sound didn't echo, didn't escape. It was swallowed by the magic itself. Fire exploded through her veins. Not pain. No, this was something far more consuming. It was heat. It was hunger. It was something clawing its way through her very soul. Her knees buckled, but he held her upright, his grip the only thing anchoring her to reality. The world shattered again, and then snapped back. They were in the forest again. But everything had changed. The air shimmered, the shadows moved, and Nyxara could feel it, the forest, the magic, him. Her gaze dropped to her wrist, where his teeth had pierced her skin. A mark was forming, black, intricate, thorns curling around a glowing silver sigil, alive, breathing, binding. "No," she whispered, horror and awe tangling in her voice. Her fingers trembled as she touched it. It pulsed beneath her skin, as if it had always been there, as if it belonged. "What did you do to me?" she asked, voice breaking. He stepped closer. Too close. Always too close. His hand lifted, brushing a strand of hair from her face with unsettling gentleness. "I completed what fate was too weak to protect," he said. Her heart stuttered. "I gave you something stronger than a mate bond." His thumb traced the mark on her wrist. "And far more dangerous." Nyxara shook her head, backing away. But even as she did, she felt it. A pull, invisible, unbreakable, drawing her toward him. "No," she breathed. "No, I don't want this." His gaze darkened, and for the first time, there was something almost cruel in his smile. "You don't have to want it." The forest stilled, the wind died, even the shadows seemed to bow. "Because Nyxara Virel." He stepped forward, and the world seemed to bend around him. "You already accepted it the moment you stepped into my domain." Her back hit something solid, a tree. Nowhere left to run. His hand pressed against the bark beside her head, caging her in. "Run if you like," he whispered, lips brushing dangerously close to hers. "Fight me, hate me." His other hand slid to her waist, pulling her just enough to feel the heat of his body. "I'll enjoy breaking every last piece of your resistance." Her breath came out in shaky bursts. "Why me?" she whispered. "Because," he said simply, and for the first time his voice held something deeper, something darker, something inevitable. "You were never meant to belong to wolves." His eyes glowed, silver and terrifying. "You were meant to belong to me, far away, in the Alpha King's territory." Draven Kalor froze mid-step. His chest tightened sharply. A strange, unfamiliar emptiness clawed at him, like something had been taken. No, like something had been replaced. His eyes narrowed. What is this? For the first time since the ceremony, he felt it, not the absence of Nyxara, but something far worse. A presence. Ancient, powerful, terrifying, encroaching, and it was coming from the forbidden forest, back in the darkness. Nyxara's knees finally gave out. But she didn't hit the ground. He caught her, effortlessly, like she weighed nothing, cradling her against his chest as if she already belonged there, as if she always had. "Rest," he murmured, his voice softer now, but no less dangerous. "You'll need your strength." Her vision blurred, her body still burned with the remnants of the bond. Her last thought before darkness claimed her was the steady, unnatural rhythm of his heartbeat beneath her ear, and the terrifying realization that it now echoed inside her. The celebration tasted like ash. Music roared through the Alpha King's hall, drums, laughter, clashing goblets, but to Draven Kalor it was nothing more than noise scraping against his skull. He stood at the head of the feast, golden goblet in hand, his new queen seated beside him. Seralith Virel, radiant, perfect, chosen, everything a Luna should be, everything Nyxara wasn't, and yet, his jaw tightened, his grip on the goblet cracked the gold slightly. Something was wrong. You're quiet tonight, my king, Serelith purred beside him, her fingers trailing up his arm in a possessive, practiced gesture. Draven didn't look at her, didn't feel her, didn't want her. A flicker of irritation crossed his face. I'm fine. He wasn't. The bond ceremony should have sealed everything. He should feel it. Her presence, her warmth, the satisfying weight of a mate connection settling into place. But there was nothing. No spark, no pull, no instinct screaming mine. Just emptiness, cold, hollow, wrong. Serelith's smile faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly. You made the right choice, she whispered, leaning closer. The pack is already celebrating us. The pack, yes. They were thrilled. Their weak, embarrassing fated Luna had been discarded, replaced by someone worthy, stronger, more beautiful, more acceptable. Everything was as it should be. So why? Draven's chest suddenly seized. His breath caught. A sharp, violent pulse tore through him. What? The goblet slipped from his hand, crashing to the stone floor. The entire hall went silent. My king? He ignored them, ignored everything. Because in that moment, he felt it. Not a bond, not a connection, but something else, something invasive, ancient, terrifying. It slithered through his senses like a living thing, brushing against his instincts, coiling around his mind. And at its center, her, Nyxara. His eyes snapped toward the distant forest beyond the walls. No, he muttered. That was impossible. He rejected her, severed the bond, cast her out. She should be nothing now. No one. So why could he still feel her? And worse, why did it feel like she was no longer his to feel? What's wrong? Serelith demanded softly now, tension creeping into her voice. Draven stood abruptly, the chair scraped harshly against the stone. Stay here, my king. But he was already moving. The cold night air hit his face as he stepped outside, his wolf stirring uneasily beneath his skin. Restless, agitated, threatened. That alone made his blood run cold. His wolf never felt threatened. Not by anything, not by anyone. He was the Alpha King, the strongest, the apex. So why did his instincts feel like prey? A low growl rumbled in his chest as he turned toward the forbidden forest. The cursed border, where Nyxara had run, his eyes darkened. She wouldn't be stupid enough, he muttered. But even as he said it, he knew she would, because she had nothing left. And something in his chest twisted sharply at that thought, a feeling he refused to name. A presence pulsed again, stronger this time, closer. Draven staggered slightly as an image flickered through his mind, not his own, not his memory, but something forced. Silver eyes, glowing, inhuman, ancient, watching, claiming. A voice followed, low, mocking. You broke what was yours. Draven's breath turned ragged. No. His claws slid out involuntarily, slicing into his palms. No one takes what belongs to me. But even as he said it, the truth settled in like poison. She didn't belong to him anymore. He had made sure of that. Back inside the hall, Serelith watched the doors long after Draven disappeared. Her nails dug into the armrest of her throne. Her perfect smile slowly faded. Something was wrong, very wrong. She could feel it. The ceremony had gone perfectly, exactly as she planned. Nyxara humiliated, rejected, destroyed. Everything she had worked for, everything she deserved, was finally hers. So why did it feel like she was losing? Her gaze drifted toward the forest as well. A shiver ran down her spine. What did you do, Nyxara? She whispered. Because deep down, she knew. Nyxara had not simply run away. Something had answered her, and whatever it wasn't something a wolf could fight. At the edge of the forbidden forest, Draven stopped. The air shifted immediately. He felt it. The boundary, the line no wolf dared cross. Magic pressed against his skin like a warning or a threat. His wolf snarled, pacing violently beneath his control. Danger, danger, danger. Draven clenched his jaw. I don't fear shadows, he growled, but even he didn't step forward. Not yet. Because the presence on the other side was not something he understood. And that made it dangerous. Meanwhile, deep within the Thornwild, Nyxara stirred. Her body felt different, heavy, warm, alive in ways she had never experienced before. Her fingers twitched against something soft, fabric, no, not fabric, something smoother, cooler, luxurious. Her brows furrowed as her eyes slowly opened. The first thing she saw was silver, endless silver. Silk sheets cascading around her like liquid moonlight. Her breath hitched as she pushed herself up slightly. This wasn't the forest. This wasn't the pack. This wasn't anywhere she had ever been. The room was vast, beautiful, terrifying. Dark vines curled along black stone walls, glowing faintly with silver light. Candles flickered without flame. The air hummed with magic. And at the far end of the room, he stood, watching her, already aware she was awake. Of course he was. He always was. Nyxara's heart began to race. "You—" Her voice came out soft, uncertain. He stepped forward slowly, each movement graceful, predatory, controlled. "Did you sleep well?" he asked, as if this were normal, as if she hadn't just been bound to him by something she didn't understand, as if he hadn't changed her entirely. Nyxara pushed herself back slightly on the bed. "Where am I?" His lips curved faintly. "My court." Her breath caught. "The Fey territory, not just any territory," he corrected softly. His eyes locked onto hers. "Dark, possessive, unyielding. You are in the heart of my kingdom." And from this moment on, his hand lifted, brushing lightly over the mark on her wrist. It flared at his touch, alive, answering. "You do not leave it without my permission." Nyxara's chest rose and fell unevenly. Her fear was still there, sharp, real. But beneath it, something else was growing, something dangerous, something curious, something that whispered, "You're not weak here." Her fingers curled slightly into the sheets. "I'm not your prisoner," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. A pause, then he smiled. Slow, dark, amused. "No," he said. His gaze swept over her like a claim already made. "Prisoners can be released." He leaned closer, just enough to make her breath catch. "You," his voice dropped into something that sent a shiver through her entire body, "are far more valuable than that." Nyxara swallowed. "Then what am I?" His eyes gleamed. Ancient, hungry, certain. "My queen," he said, far beyond the borders of his reach. Draven Kalor felt it, that word, that claim, and for the first time in his reign, the Alpha King felt something dangerously close to fear. The word queen did not feel like a gift. It felt like a chain, a crown forged in something far more dangerous than gold. Nyxara stared at him, her pulse uneven. "My queen?" she repeated, disbelief laced with something sharper. "You don't even know me." Valoris tilted his head slightly, as if she had said something amusing. "Oh, little wolf," he murmured, stepping closer. "I know you far better than you realize." Her breath hitched. That pull, that thing between them, it tightened again, invisible yet suffocating, drawing her toward him like gravity she couldn't escape. "I am not your queen," she snapped, forcing strength into her voice. "And I won't be owned again." Something flickered in his eyes, not anger, not yet, something darker, something intrigued. Again he repeated softly, "So you admit you were owned?" Her jaw tightened. "I was mated," she corrected sharply. "Rejected," he said, voice like a blade sliding between her ribs. The words hit their mark. Her fingers curled into the silk sheets. Pain flashed. But this time it didn't break her. It burned. And the mark on her wrist reacted. A pulse of black-silver light burst from her skin. The room trembled. Candles flickered violently. The vines along the walls writhed as if alive. Nyxara gasped, staring at her wrist. What is happening?" Valoris stilled, completely. His gaze locked onto her mark, something like recognition flashing across his face. "Interesting," he murmured. The power surged again, stronger, wilder, uncontrolled. It spilled out of her like a storm breaking free. The windows shattered outward. A violent gust of wind tore through the chamber. Nyxara cried out as her body lifted slightly from the bed. Suspended, caught in something she couldn't control. "I can't stop it," she gasped. "Make it stop." Valoris moved, fast, too fast. 1 second he stood across the room. The next, he was in front of her, his hand gripping her wrist. The moment he touched her, everything snapped. The power collapsed inward violently. Nyxara fell, but didn't hit the ground. He caught her. Of course he did. His arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her flush against his chest as the last remnants of magic crackled between them. Silence fell. Heavy, breathing, alive. Nyxara's chest rose and fell rapidly. Her fingers trembled against his shirt. "What was that?" she whispered. Valoris didn't answer immediately. His gaze was fixed on her. Not her face, Not her fear, but her. As if he was seeing something he had been waiting centuries to find. "You're waking up," he said finally, her brows furrowed. Waking up to what? His hand slowly lifted, hovering just above her heart. He didn't touch her, but she felt it anyway. Heat, pressure, awareness. To what you really are. Nyxara's breath caught. "No," she shook her head, panic creeping in again. "I'm just a wolf." "You are not just a wolf." The sharpness in his voice cut through her denial. The room seemed to darken in response. "You never were." Her heart pounded. "Then what am I?" she demanded. A long pause. "Then?" He smiled. "Something ancient. Something dangerous. Something they tried very hard to bury. Far away, in the Alpha King's territory." Draven dropped to one knee. A violent force slammed into him out of nowhere, knocking the air from his lungs. His claws dug into the earth as his wolf howled in distress. "What is this?" he snarled. Power, raw, unfamiliar, terrifying. It surged through the land itself, and it was coming from the forbidden forest, from her. His eyes widened slightly. Nyxara. For the first time, he didn't feel superiority when he said her name. He felt uncertainty. Back in the Thornwild. Nyxara pulled away from Valoris, stumbling slightly as she regained her footing. "No," she said again, but her voice lacked conviction now. "You're lying." "I don't lie," he said simply. That alone was more unsettling than anything else. Her gaze dropped to her hands. They were still trembling, still humming faintly with that strange energy. "I've always been weak," she whispered. A lie she had been fed, a truth she had believed, a cage she had lived in. Valoris watched her carefully. Then he stepped closer again, but this time slower, more deliberate. "Say that again," he murmured. She frowned. "What?" "That you are weak." Something in his tone made her hesitate. "I am weak," she said, but the words felt wrong now, unfitting, like wearing someone else's skin. The mark on her wrist burned, hot, sharp, rebelling. Valoris's eyes darkened. "Your power just shattered reinforced Fey glass," he said quietly. "The same glass that has held back ancient creatures for centuries." Nyxara froze. "What?" "And yet," he continued, stepping closer until she had to tilt her head to meet his gaze, "you still cling to the lie they gave you." Her chest tightened. They wouldn't lie about something like that. "They didn't lie," he said softly. "They ensured it." Silence. Heavy, crushing. "What do you mean?" she whispered. His hand lifted again, this time gently taking hers. The contrast from earlier made her breath hitch. "Power like yours," he said, turning her wrist slightly to examine the mark. "Doesn't go unnoticed." His thumb brushed over it. It flared in response. Alive. Hungry. "They saw it," he continued. "Even if you didn't." Nyxara's mind spun. "No. If I had power, they would have trained me." He laughed. Low, cold, dangerous. "Train you?" he echoed. "Little wolf, power like yours doesn't get trained." His gaze locked onto hers. "It gets controlled." A chill ran down her spine. Or destroyed. Her breath grew uneven. Memories surfaced. Moments she had ignored. Times her strength failed at the worst possible moments. Times she froze. Times she couldn't shift properly. Times she felt blocked. Not weak, but held back. "No," she whispered. Watched her realization unfold. Slow, painful, perfect. Yes. Her knees nearly gave out again, but this time she caught herself, her fingers clenched into fists, and for the first time there was something new in her eyes, not fear, not weakness, but anger, raw, burning, alive. "They knew," she whispered. Valoris's lips curved slightly. "There it is." Her head snapped up. "They knew," she repeated, stronger now. "They knew, and they let everyone believe I was nothing." The mark pulsed again. This time, it didn't explode. It coiled, controlled, waiting. Valoris stepped closer, clearly pleased. "Now you're beginning to understand." Nyxara's chest rose and fell. Her entire life. A lie. A cage. A deliberate suppression of something she didn't even understand. Her gaze hardened. "Teach me," she said suddenly. Valoris stilled. "What?" "Teach me," she repeated, her voice steady now. If I have power, if they hid it from me, then I want it back. Silence stretched between them. Heavy, tense, electric. Then he smiled, slow, satisfied, predatory. I was hoping you would say that, Nyxara swallowed. Something about that smile. It wasn't kind. It wasn't safe. But it didn't make her step back. If anything, it made her step forward. He leaned in slightly, close enough that his breath brushed against her lips. Be careful what you ask for, Nyxara, he murmured. Her heart pounded. I'm done being weak. A pause, then his hand slid to the back of her neck, fingers tangling slightly in her hair. Not rough, but not gentle either, claiming, grounding, dangerous. Good, he said softly, because what I'm about to turn you into, his eyes darkened, silver burning into something far more dangerous, will make your Alpha King regret ever learning your name. Far away, Draven Kalor looked toward the forest again. And this time, he didn't see darkness. He saw something rising, and for the first time, the Alpha King realized. He hadn't just rejected a mate, he had unleashed something far worse. Pain was the first lesson. Nyxara didn't even see the attack coming. One moment she stood in the center of a vast, open clearing deep within the Thornwild. The next, the ground beneath her feet exploded. Vines shot upward like living blades, wrapping around her ankles and yanking her down hard. The breath slammed out of her lungs as she hit the cold black earth. What? She struggled instantly, claws trying to emerge. But nothing happened. No shift, no wolf, just panic. Get up! Valoris's voice cut through the chaos. Calm, commanding, unforgiving. Nyxara gasped as the vines tightened, biting into her skin. I can't. Then you die. Her heart stuttered. What? The pressure increased. Sharp thorns pressed against her throat now, not piercing, but close enough that even the smallest movement would draw blood. This is your first lesson, Valoris said, stepping into her line of sight, hands clasped behind his back like this was nothing more than a casual observation. If you cannot access your power under pressure, the vines tightened again, her breath hitched, then you don't deserve to have it. Something snapped. Not in her body, in her mind. I am not dying here, Nyxara snarled. The mark on her wrist flared violently. Heat surged through her veins, wild, uncontrolled, raging. The vines reacted immediately, tightening harder as if trying to suppress her. But this time, she pushed back. A burst of silver-black energy exploded outward. The vines shattered, not cut, not torn, erased. Nyxara sucked in a sharp breath as the force threw her backward, her body skidding across the ground. Silence followed, heavy, still, unnatural. She lay there for a moment, staring up at the twisted canopy above. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. I did that, she whispered. Not weak, never weak, just restrained. Slow, deliberate footsteps approached. Valoris stopped above her, looking down, not surprised, not impressed, but satisfied. Again, Nyxara blinked. What? Before she could react. The ground shifted again, this time worse. The earth split open beneath her, and shadowy tendrils lunged upward, wrapping around her arms, her waist, her throat, dragging her down, faster, harder, more violent. Panic clawed up her spine. Stop! No! His voice was colder now, sharper. You hesitate. You die. I just did it. And you will do it again. The shadows tightened, crushing, suffocating. Her vision blurred. Her lungs burned. I can't breathe. Then stop thinking like prey. Her body trembled. Fear surged. Old instinct screamed at her. You're weak. You can't fight this. You'll fail. But beneath that, something else rose, hotter, darker, angrier. No, not this time. Nyxara's fingers curled. Her nails dug into the shadow, binding her. I'm not prey, she rasped. The mark ignited. Power surged again, but this time, it didn't explode. It focused. The shadows snapped. Not violently, but precisely, clean, controlled, like they had been commanded to release her. Nyxara dropped to her knees, gasping for air, but this time, she didn't collapse. She stayed upright. Her hands trembled, but not from weakness, from restraint. Valoris watched her closely, his expression unreadable. Better, he said. Nyxara looked up at him, anger flashing in her eyes. You could have killed me. A pause. Then, I would not let you die. Her breath hitched slightly. But you made it feel real. His gaze darkened. It was real. He stepped closer, slow, deliberate. For you to control your power, your body must believe there is no other choice. He crouched in front of her, their faces inches apart, and for that, his voice dropped. You must fear losing. Nyxara's jaw tightened. I already lost everything. A flicker passed through his eyes. Something sharper, more dangerous. Not everything, he said quietly. His hand lifted, hovering near her face, not touching, but close enough that she could feel the heat of it. You still have yourself. Her breath caught, barely. Her cheek, light, unexpectedly gentle, and somehow, that felt more dangerous than anything he had done so far. Then we will fix that, he murmured. The moment stretched, heavy, charged, unspoken tension crackling between them. Nyxara's heart pounded. Her body reacted in ways she didn't understand, didn't trust, didn't want, but couldn't ignore. She pulled back slightly. I don't trust you. His lips curved faintly. I don't require your trust. Of course he didn't. He already had something far worse. Control, again, he said, rising to his full height. Nyxara exhaled slowly. Her body ached, her mind spun, but she stood, this time, on her own. Fine, she said, lifting her chin. Do it. Something in his expression shifted. Approval, dark, satisfied, deadly. The forest responded instantly. This time, it wasn't vines or shadows. It was something worse. The air itself grew heavy, cold, whispering. Shapes began to form around her. Distorted figures, eyes glowing faintly in the darkness, not creatures, not fully, something in between. What are those? She whispered. Valoris's voice came from behind her now, close, too close. Your next lesson? The figures moved, slowly, circling her, hunting. Her pulse quickened. They're not real, she said quickly. Just illusions. Then prove it. One lunged. Nyxara screamed as it passed through her, but it didn't pass harmlessly. Pain ripped through her side like claws tearing flesh. She staggered. What? They are as real as your fear allows them to be, Valoris said. Another lunged. She dodged this time, barely. Her heart raced wildly. If you believe they can hurt you, a third one attacked. Faster, stronger. She barely managed to block it with a burst of energy. Then they will. Nyxara's breathing turned ragged. Her mind spun. This wasn't just power. This was control over perception, reality, fear. I can't fight all of them. Yes, you can. His voice dropped, right against her ear. You just don't know how yet. Her pulse spiked. Why was he so close? Why did it affect her? Why? Focus. Focus. Another attack. This time, she didn't panic. She watched, observed, felt the energy, the illusion, the intent, and then she moved. Her hand shot out, grabbing the creature mid-lunge. For a split second, it resisted. Then, it shattered, like glass, gone. Nyxara stared at her hand. I did it. A breath. Another creature lunged. She turned, faster now, stronger, more certain, and destroyed that one too. One by one, they fell, until nothing remained. Nyxara stood in the center of the clearing, breathing hard, sweat clinging to her skin, but standing, still fighting, still there. Slow clapping echoed behind her. She turned. Valoris, watching, eyes dark, expression pleased. Good, he said. But there was something else in his gaze now, something deeper, something that made her pulse skip. You learn quickly. Nyxara lifted her chin slightly. I told you I wasn't weak. His gaze dropped to her lips briefly, then back to her eyes. No, he said softly. You're not. He stepped closer. The distance between them vanished too quickly. Again, always too quickly. Which makes this, he murmured, his hand brushing her wrist where the mark glowed faintly, far more interesting. Her breath caught. That's not comforting. His lips curved slightly. It's not meant to be. A pause. Then, his hand slid from her wrist to her chin, tilting her face up toward him. Her heart pounded. Harder, faster, louder. Tell me, Nyxara, he murmured. Do you still wish to leave? Silence. Her mind screamed yes. Her body didn't move, didn't agree, didn't lie. No, she whispered. His eyes darkened. Victory, possession, something dangerously close to satisfaction. I know. Far beyond the Thornwild, Draven Kalor stood at the forest's edge again. This time, he didn't hesitate. Something inside him had shifted. Something primal, something desperate. She's still mine, he growled. And with that, the Alpha King stepped across the forbidden boundary. The forest went silent. The Thornwild felt him the moment he entered. Draven Kalor had crossed many borders in his life, territories soaked in blood, lands ruled by beasts, kingdoms that bowed or burned beneath him. But this was different. The moment his foot passed the invisible threshold, the forest noticed, not passively, not distantly, but intimately, like something ancient had just opened its eyes and found him standing where he did not belong. The air thickened. Every breath tasted like cold iron and wild magic. The trees twisted unnaturally, their bark pulsing faintly like veins beneath skin. And the silence, it wasn't empty, it was watching. Draven's wolf snarled violently inside him, claws scraping against his control. Leave. The instinct wasn't fear, it was survival. But Draven had never listened to instinct when pride was involved. I don't bow to forests, he muttered, stepping deeper in. The moment he did, a voice echoed, soft, laughing, another arrogant beast wandering into a grave. Draven turned sharply. She appeared as if woven from the shadows themselves, tall, elegant, dangerous. Her skin shimmered faintly with an unnatural glow, her long midnight hair threaded with strands of silver that moved as if alive. Her eyes, deep violet, held the kind of amusement that came from watching something already doomed. State your name before I decide whether to entertain myself with you, she said lazily. Draven straightened. I am Draven Kalor, Alpha King of... I know who you are, she cut in, rolling her eyes slightly. That had never happened before. I asked, she continued, stepping closer with slow, predatory grace, because I wanted to see if you would say it with less arrogance. Draven's jaw tightened. And who are you? She smiled, sharp, playful, cruel. I am Zyreth Vallis, she said, General of the Thorn Court, commander of the King's armies. Her gaze flicked over him, assessing, unimpressed, and currently debating whether to rip your throat out before or after I get bored. Draven's wolf surged forward instantly. A growl tore from his chest. Try it. The ground trembled slightly beneath him as his aura flared. Dominance, power, authority. Any normal creature would have dropped to their knees. Zyreth didn't even blink. Instead, she yawned, adorable, before Draven could react. Something slammed into him from the side, hard, fast, unseen. He crashed into a tree, the impact cracking the trunk behind him. His breath left his lungs in a violent rush. What? A second figure stepped into view. Male, tall, broad-shouldered. His presence felt like controlled destruction. Golden armor laced with living vines covered his body, and his eyes, glowing faint green, held no amusement, only calculation. You talk too much, Zyreth, he said calmly. And you're too slow, Kalthorin Draxel, she shot back with a grin. Draven pushed himself up slowly, blood trickling from his lip. Two of you? Kalthorin's gaze settled on him. Cold, unforgiving. You crossed into the King's domain, he said. You should be grateful there are only two. Draven wiped the blood from his mouth. His eyes burned. I'm not here for a fight. Zyreth snorted. That's unfortunate. I am... Kalthorin didn't move, but the air shifted, tightened. You're here for the girl, he said. Not a question, a statement. Draven's body went still. Where is she? Zyreth's smile widened. Oh, he admits it. Kalthorin's gaze sharpened slightly. You have no claim here, Wolf. Draven's claws slid out. She is mine. Silence. Then, Zyreth laughed. Not lightly, not kindly, but violently amused. Oh, this is going to be fun. Meanwhile, deep within the Thorn Court, Nyxara stood before a mirror that wasn't truly a mirror. The surface shimmered like liquid glass, reflecting not just her image, but something deeper, something hidden. Her reflection blinked, but she hadn't. Her breath caught. What is this? She whispered. A truth-seeing pool. Nyxara turned. A new presence stood at the entrance. A woman, older, regal, terrifying in a quiet, composed way. Her silver hair was woven into an intricate crown of living thorns, and her eyes glowed faintly gold. Not wild like Valoris, not sharp like Ziraith, but something else entirely, ancient, knowing. "I am Maelthira Solen," she said, "seer of the Thorn Court." Nyxara swallowed. "You've been watching me." Maelthira inclined her head slightly. "We have all been watching you." That didn't comfort her, at all. Nyxara looked back at the mirror. Her reflection shifted again. And this time, she saw it. Not herself, not fully, but something layered beneath her skin. Shadows. Light. Something coiled. Something waiting. "What am I?" she whispered. Maelthira stepped closer. "The question is not what you are," she said softly. "It is what you were meant to become." Nyxara's chest tightened. "That's not an answer." "No," Maelthira agreed, "it's a warning." Before Nyxara could respond, the doors slammed open, Valoris entered, and the entire room seemed to bend around him. His gaze immediately found Nyxara, always her, but this time, there was something darker beneath it, something dangerous. "Stay here," he said. Nyxara frowned. "What's wrong?" A pause. Then, "A pest has wandered into my forest." Back at the border, Draven stood surrounded, Ziraith to his left, Kael'Thorin to his right, and the forest itself pressing in. "You're outnumbered," Kael'Thorin said calmly. Draven's lips curled. "I've been outnumbered before." Ziraith cracked her neck slightly. "And how did that go for the others?" Draven's aura flared again, violent, dominant. "I didn't come here to fight." Ziraith grinned. "Then you came to die?" A new presence descended, heavy, crushing, absolute. The forest went still. Ziraith's grin widened. Kael'Thorin stepped back slightly. And Draven, for the first time, felt it fully. That power, that presence, that king. Valoris appeared between them. No movement, no warning. Just there. His silver eyes locked onto Draven, and something ancient and furious stirred beneath the surface. "You," Valoris said softly. Draven straightened. "You took something that belongs to me." Silence. Then, Valoris smiled, slow, terrifying, mocking. "No," he said. The ground cracked beneath his feet. The air warped. Reality itself seemed to bend slightly around his voice. "I claimed what you were too blind to see." Draven's claws extended fully now. "Release her." Ziraith actually laughed out loud this time. Kael'Thorin didn't move, but even he looked slightly amused. Valoris stepped closer, each step heavier than the last. "You rejected her," he said, "publicly, deliberately, permanently." Each word hit like a hammer. "And now," he finished, stopping just inches from Draven, "you dare to stand in my domain and demand her back?" Draven didn't back down. "She's my mate." A pause. Then Valoris's smile vanished, completely, cold, deadly, final. "No," he said quietly. The mark on Nyxara's wrist flared miles away, answering him. "She is mine." The forest roared, magic surged. And just like that, war was no longer a possibility. It was inevitable. Nyxara was not supposed to leave her chambers, which was exactly why she did. The moment Valoris disappeared, something inside her twisted, tight, restless, wrong. Pulsed erratically, like a heartbeat out of rhythm. Not calm, not controlled, but disturbed. Her fingers pressed against the mark on her wrist. It burned, not painfully, but insistently, calling her, drawing her. "What are you hiding?" she whispered. Maelthira's warning echoed faintly in her mind. "Stay." Nyxara ignored. The Thorn Court did not try to stop her. That was the first unsettling thing. The halls, vast, alive, whispering with magic, simply opened. Doors unlocked, shadows shifted, as if the castle itself wanted her to see. By the time she reached the outer terrace, the air had already changed, heavy, charged, violent, and then she saw them, Valoris, Draven, facing each other, power colliding invisibly between them. Ziraith leaned casually against a pillar nearby, clearly entertained, while Kael'Thorin stood still as stone, watching like a judge awaiting a verdict. Nyxara's breath caught. Draven, her chest tightened instinctively. A reflex, a memory, a wound not fully closed. He looked the same, strong, dominant, unshaken, but something in his eyes, something was different. And then he spoke. "Nyxara," Draven called, his voice cutting through the tension as his gaze snapped to her. Everything froze. Valoris didn't turn, but the air around him darkened. "You shouldn't be here," Valoris said quietly, but Nyxara barely heard him, her focus locked onto Draven. "You came for me?" she asked, her voice uncertain despite everything. A flicker crossed Draven's face. Relief, possession, something dangerously close to certainty. "Of course I did," he said. "You're mine." The words hit harder this time, not comforting, not claiming, but suffocating. Nyxara flinched slightly. "I'm not—" "You're my mate," he cut in sharply, stepping forward. The ground beneath him cracked faintly under the pressure of his aura. "I made a mistake." Silence, heavy, explosive. Zyrith straightened slightly, her grin sharpening. "Oh?" she murmured. "Now this is interesting." Calthorin's gaze flicked briefly to Valoris. Still, watching, waiting. Nyxara's heart pounded violently. "A mistake," she repeated, disbelief bleeding into her voice. Draven's jaw tightened. "I was wrong to reject you." The words felt unreal, too late, too sudden, too easy. "You humiliated me," Nyxara said, her voice trembling now, not with weakness, but anger barely held in place. "In front of everyone." "I did what I thought was best for the pack," he snapped. "And now?" she demanded. His eyes darkened. "Now I'm correcting it." Something inside her broke. Not like before, not soft, not shattered, but sharp, cutting, cold. "You don't get to correct me," she said. Valoris finally moved, just one step forward. But it was enough. The entire atmosphere shifted. Danger spiked. "You're done speaking," Valoris said calmly. Draven's gaze snapped to him. "I wasn't speaking to you." "You don't speak to her at all," Valoris replied. Nyxara's pulse spiked. Something twisted violently in her chest. Jealousy? No. Something worse. Confusion. Because Draven stepped closer again, ignoring Valoris completely. "Come back with me," Draven said, his voice lowering, softer, persuasive, the same tone he had never used on her before. "We can fix this." And for a moment, a dangerous, fragile moment. Nyxara hesitated, not because she wanted him, but because a part of her still needed to understand. Why now? Valoris saw it, that hesitation, that flicker, and something in him snapped. The air turned deadly cold. "Do not test me, Nyxara," Valoris said, his voice dropping into something darker, something possessive, something sharp enough to cut. Nyxara's head turned toward him, anger flashing instantly. "I'm not yours to command." Silence. Zyrith's grin widened slowly. "Oh, she said it." Calthorin exhaled quietly. "This will end badly." Valoris's eyes darkened. "Everything about you is mine," he said. The mark on her wrist flared violently in response. Nyxara gasped, clutching it. "That's not consent, that's control." Draven's growl tore through the space. "Get your hands off her." And just like that, everything exploded. Valoris moved first. Too fast, too precise, his hand wrapped around Nyxara's wrist, pulling her sharply against him. The mark burned, alive, responsive, claiming. "She stands with me," Valoris said coldly. Nyxara struggled instantly. "Let me go." But the moment she touched him, her body betrayed her. That pull, that heat, that unnatural connection surged again, wrapping around her senses, drowning out logic. And Draven saw it, saw her reaction, saw her body respond. Rage consumed him. "You think you can control her?" Draven snarled. "She's not like your kind." Valoris's lips curved slightly. "No," he said softly. "She's not." Nyxara's chest tightened. Something about that, the way Valoris said it, the certainty, the ownership, it sparked something ugly inside her. "You don't know me either," she snapped, wrenching her arm free this time. Both men went still. "I am not a prize for either of you to fight over," she said, her voice rising. "I'm not your mistake," she glared at Draven. "And I'm not your possession," she turned to Valoris. Silence, tense, fragile. But miscommunication is cruel, because neither man heard what she meant. Draven heard rejection. Again, and his pride couldn't take it. "So, that's it?" he said, his voice turning cold. "You'd rather stay here? With him?" Disgust laced his tone. That cut. Deep. Nyxara's eyes flashed. "At least he didn't throw me away like I was nothing." Valoris heard something else entirely. Not rejection, not independence, but doubt. And that he did not tolerate. His presence surged. Dark, terrifying. "Careful, Nyxara," he said softly. Too softly. "You're starting to sound ungrateful." Her breath caught. Ungrateful? The word burned. "After everything, you don't own my gratitude," she snapped. Zareth actually laughed. "Oh, I like her." The tension snapped. Draven lunged first. A blur of claws and fury aimed straight at Valoris. But he never reached him. Calthorin intercepted him mid-air. The impact shook the ground. "You're not fighting him," Calthorin said calmly, pinning Draven back with inhuman strength. "Because you won't survive it," Draven snarled violently, struggling. "Get off me!" Valoris didn't even look at him. His gaze remained locked on Nyxara, disappointed, cold, unreadable. "You will return to your chambers," he said. Not a request. A command. Nyxara's chest rose and fell sharply. "No," the word echoed. Loud, clear, defiant. And for the first time, Valoris looked at her like something dangerous. Not fragile, not breakable, but something that could become a problem. "Don't make me force you," he said quietly. Her heart pounded. Fear crept in, but she didn't step back. Try silence, deadly, absolute. Then Valoris smiled, not warm, not amused, but dark, sharp, promising consequence. "Very well," he said. The mark on her wrist ignited, and this time, it didn't just burn, it bound. Nyxara gasped as her body froze, not fully, but enough. Enough to remind her, enough to prove a point. "I said," Valoris murmured, stepping closer, his voice dropping into something dangerously intimate and cold at once. "Return." Tears burned her eyes. Not from pain, from anger, from humiliation, from the realization that, even here, she wasn't free. Draven saw it, and something inside him twisted violently. "You think that's power?" he spat. "You're just proving you're no better than us." That hit, because for a split second, Nyxara thought the same. Valoris went still, then slowly, he turned, and for the first time, his full attention fell on Draven. "You've said enough." The ground shattered beneath them. Magic surged violently. The sky above the Thornwild darkened unnaturally. Zareth stepped back, eyes gleaming. "Oh, now you've done it." Calthorin released Draven, not out of mercy, but inevitability, because this was no longer about Nyxara. This was about kings, power, and a war that had just become personal. Nyxara collapsed to her knees, clutching her burning wrist. Her heart shattered in a different way now, not from rejection, but from realization. Neither of them understands me. And that truth might be the most dangerous thing of all. Silence followed the storm, but it wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that came after something broke, and hadn't decided what it would become next. Nyxara remained on her knees long after the others stopped moving. The burning in her wrist had faded, but the echo of it lingered, like a reminder carved beneath her skin. Her chest rose and fell unevenly. Anger, humiliation, confusion, and something far more dangerous, something softer. "Everyone out," Valoris's voice cut clean through the tension. Zareth arched a brow, clearly disappointed. "Already? I was just starting to enjoy—" "Out," he repeated. No louder, no sharper, but absolute. Calthorin moved first, grabbing Draven by the arm before he could protest. "This isn't your battlefield anymore," he said quietly. Draven resisted for a split second. His eyes locked onto Nyxara. Something unreadable passed through them. Regret? Possession? Something darker? "This isn't over," he said. Then he was gone. Zareth lingered just a moment longer, her violet eyes flicking between Nyxara and Valoris. A slow, knowing smile curved her lips. "Oh, this will be interesting." Then she vanished too. And just like that, it was only them. The Thornwild stilled, the wind softened, even the shadows seemed to retreat, as if the entire world understood. This moment didn't belong to anyone else. Nyxara didn't look at him, couldn't. Her pride burned too hot, her emotions too tangled. "Are you going to force me again?" she asked quietly, not weak, not broken, but tired. A pause, longer than expected. Then, "No." That made her look up. Valoris stood a few steps away now. Not looming, not overpowering, just there, watching her. But something had changed. The sharp edge of his presence had dulled slightly. Not gone. Never gone. But restrained. Then why am I still here? She asked. His gaze held hers. Unwavering. Because you haven't left. Her breath caught. That answer. It wasn't what she expected. It wasn't control. It wasn't dominance. It was truth. Nyxara slowly pushed herself to her feet. Her body ached. But she stood anyway. You don't get to decide everything for me, she said, quieter now. Not defiant, but real. I know. Another unexpected answer. Her brows furrowed slightly. Then why act like you do? Valoris didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer. Slowly this time. Giving her time to step back, to refuse, to run. She didn't. I've ruled for centuries, he said at last. Power isn't something I negotiate with. He stopped just in front of her, close enough to feel, but not touching, not yet. But you, his voice lowered slightly, softer in a way that didn't match the words, are not power I can simply command. Nyxara's heart stuttered. That's not what it felt like earlier. Something flickered across his face. Regret? No, not quite. But awareness. The bond reacts to me, he said, and I reacted to it. That's not an excuse. It's not, he agreed. Silence stretched between them, but this time, it wasn't hostile. It was something else, something fragile. Nyxara exhaled slowly. Then don't do it again. Valoris studied her. Really studied her, as if weighing something unseen. Then I will try. That answer felt more honest than a promise, and somehow that mattered more. The air shifted, softer now, warmer. The tension between them didn't disappear. But it changed. Nyxara became suddenly aware of how close he was. Too close, always too close. Her pulse picked up, not from fear this time. Something else, something unfamiliar. You keep looking at me like that, she said quietly. His brow lifted slightly. Like what? Like I'm... She hesitated. Yours. A long pause. Then, you are... Her heart slammed hard against her ribs. That's exactly what I mean. Valoris stepped closer, closing the last inch of space between them. Not touching, but close enough that her breath caught. There's a difference, he said softly, between possession and recognition. Her lips parted slightly. And which one is this? His gaze dropped briefly, to her lips, then back to her eyes, slow, deliberate, intentional. That, he murmured, depends on whether you pull away. Her heart pounded, loud, wild, unsteady. She didn't move. The silence deepened, thickened, charged. Valoris's hand lifted, slowly, giving her time. Always giving her time now. His fingers brushed lightly against her wrist, right over the mark. This time, it didn't burn. It warmed, soft, steady, alive. Nyxara inhaled sharply. Her body responded instantly, not with pain, but awareness, connection, something that hummed beneath her skin. That's different, she whispered. Yes. His thumb traced the edge of the mark gently, not claiming, not forcing, just feeling. You're not fighting it, he said quietly. Nyxara swallowed. I'm not sure I can... His gaze softened, just slightly, enough to matter. You don't have to fight everything, he said. Her eyes lifted to his, including you. A pause. Then, especially me. The honesty in that should have scared her. It didn't. His hand slid from her wrist, up her arm, slow, measured, as if learning her, not taking her. Every inch of movement sent a quiet shiver through her body. Not fear, not discomfort, but something deeper, something that made her pulse quicken and her thoughts blur. Tell me to stop, he said. Nyxara opened her mouth. She should. She needed to. This was dangerous. He was dangerous. Everything about this was... No, she whispered instead. Something dark and satisfied flickered in his eyes. But he didn't rush, didn't take more than she gave. His hand reached her cheek again. Rested there, warm, steady. You're trembling, he murmured. I'm not afraid, she said quickly. I know. That answer hit differently. His thumb brushed lightly beneath her eye, catching a tear she didn't realize had fallen. You feel too much, he said softly. Nyxara let out a shaky breath. I was never allowed to... His gaze darkened slightly. Then feel it now. The words were quiet, but they carried weight, permission, command, something in between. Her breath hitched. I don't know how, she admitted. Valoris leaned in slightly, close enough that their foreheads nearly touched. You're doing it already. Her heart pounded, her chest tightened, her fingers curled instinctively into his shirt, gripping, anchoring, and this time, he didn't pull her closer, he let her choose. That was what broke her. Not dominance, not power, but that. Nyxara closed the distance. Not a kiss, not yet, but close enough that their breaths mingled, that the space between them felt thinner than it should. His eyes darkened, but he didn't move. Careful, he whispered. You too, she breathed back. A pause. One heartbeat. Two. Then, his forehead rested lightly against hers, and for the first time, there was no control, no command, no war, just connection, fragile, dangerous, far beyond the thorn wild. Draven Kalor stood alone in the darkness. His chest burned, not from wounds, but from something worse, because even without seeing it, he felt it, that shift, that closeness, that bond growing stronger, and for the first time, the Alpha King didn't feel anger, he felt something far more dangerous, jealousy. The night didn't end, it softened, stretched, lingering in that fragile space between almost and not yet. Nyxara didn't move away, neither did Valoris. Their foreheads still rested together, breaths mingling in quiet, uneven rhythms, like two storms learning how not to collide. You're still here, she whispered. I told you, his voice was low, steady. I don't force what I want from you. Her fingers tightened slightly in the fabric of his shirt. That word again. Want, not need, not claim, not obligation. It made her chest ache in a way she didn't understand. Why? She asked softly. A pause. Then, because if you choose me, his voice dipped, quieter, rougher, it will mean something. Nyxara's breath caught. That answer. It felt more dangerous than any command. She pulled back slightly this time, not far, just enough to see his face clearly, really see him. The Fae King wasn't beautiful in a gentle way. He was sharp, unforgiving, carved from something ancient and wild. But right now, there was restraint in him, control, something tightly leashed. For someone so powerful, she murmured, You hesitate a lot. His lips curved faintly, not quite a smile. You make me. Her heart stumbled. Silence settled again, but it wasn't empty. It was full of unspoken things, of tension that didn't break. It deepened. Nyxara's gaze drifted down, to his lips, then quickly back up again. She shouldn't be thinking like this, shouldn't be feeling this. Not after everything, not after him, not after Draven. Draven. The thought cut through the moment like a blade. Her expression shifted instantly. Closed off, guarded. Valoris noticed. Of course he did. Say it, he said quietly. Nyxara stepped back this time, putting space between them. I can't just forget what happened, she said. Her voice wasn't angry. It was conflicted. You were rejected, Valoris said. Not unkindly, just fact. In front of everyone, she added bitterly. His gaze darkened slightly. And then you claimed me like it didn't matter. There it was, the fracture. Valoris exhaled slowly. I didn't claim you to erase him. Then why? She demanded. This time, he didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer again, but slower, careful. Because I felt you, he said finally. Nyxara frowned. What does that even mean? His hand lifted, but stopped mid-air, waiting. She hesitated, then didn't pull away. His fingers brushed lightly against her arm again, sending that same quiet warmth through her body. The moment you stepped into my territory, he said softly, the bond reacted. Her breath caught. Not because you were available, he continued. Not because he rejected you. His gaze locked onto hers, intense, unyielding, but because it recognized you. Nyxara's chest tightened. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to. His hand slid slowly down her arm, until his fingers laced loosely with hers. This time, he didn't grip, didn't hold, he just waited. Nyxara stared at their hands, at the way his larger fingers fit around hers, at the way her pulse seemed to sync with his. You're doing it again, she whispered. Doing what? Making it hard to hate you. A quiet pause, then, you don't hate me. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Because he was right, and that scared her more than anything. Valoris stepped closer again, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, the steady rise and fall of his chest. "You're angry," he said. "Yes. You're hurt. Yes. But you're still here." Her heart pounded. "Yes," she whispered. His thumb brushed lightly over her knuckles. Slow, absent, almost thoughtful. "Then stop pretending this is simple," he said. Nyxara let out a soft, shaky breath. "It's not." "No," he agreed. "It isn't." Silence again, but softer now. Warmer. The wind shifted around them, carrying the faint scent of night blossoms. Magic lingered in the air. Subtle, watching, waiting. Nyxara's gaze lifted to his again. "What happens now?" Valoris studied her, long, carefully. "Now?" he repeated. She nodded. His hand tightened slightly around hers. "Not enough to trap, just enough to anchor." "Now," he said quietly, "I learn you." Her breath hitched. "And you?" he added. Nyxara hesitated. Her pulse raced, her thoughts tangled. "I don't know," she admitted. "That's honest. It's all I have right now. That's enough." Something in her chest loosened, just slightly. Valoris lifted his free hand again, slowly, always slowly. This time, he didn't touch her face. He brushed a strand of her hair back instead, tucking it gently behind her ear. The intimacy of it. It hit different. Nyxara inhaled sharply, her body reacting before her mind could catch up. "You're very careful," she said softly. "I have to be." "Why?" His gaze darkened slightly. "Because if I stop being careful," he said, voice low, rough, "I won't stop." Her heart slammed hard against her ribs. The air between them thickened instantly. Nyxara swallowed. "And what does that mean?" Valoris leaned in slightly, not touching, not quite. "It means," he murmured, "that I would take far more than you're ready to give." A shiver ran down her spine. "But I won't," he added. That restraint again. It made her pulse race even faster. "Why not?" she whispered. His eyes held hers, dark, steady, burning with something he refused to unleash. "Because I want you to come to me," he said. Nyxara's breath faltered. Not taken, not claimed, chosen, slowly, almost without thinking. She stepped closer again, closing the space. Her free hand lifted, hesitated, then rested lightly against his chest. She felt it immediately. That power, that heartbeat, that strength barely contained beneath skin. Valoris went still. "You're testing me," he said quietly. "Maybe," she whispered. His hand tightened just slightly around hers. "That's dangerous. So are you." A pause. True. Their gazes locked, neither looking away, neither retreating. The tension built again, but this time it didn't feel like conflict. It felt like something waiting, something inevitable. Nyxara's fingers curled slightly against his chest, and for a moment, just a moment, she leaned in. Their lips almost met, almost. Then she stopped, breathing uneven, heart racing. Valoris didn't chase her, didn't close the distance. He stayed exactly where he was, waiting. That was what made it unbearable. Nyxara pulled back slowly, her chest rising and falling. "I'm not ready," she admitted. Valoris nodded once. No disappointment, no frustration. "Then we wait." Her eyes searched his. "You'd really wait? For you?" he said quietly. A beat. "Yes." Something inside her shifted. Deep, unavoidable, and for the first time since everything broke, since the rejection, since the claiming, since the chaos, Nyxara felt something fragile begin to form. Not trust, not yet, but the beginning of it, and far beyond the Thornwild. The shadows moved, watching, whispering, because something ancient had awakened, and Nyxara was at the center of it. The moment shattered before it could become anything more. Nyxara felt it first, a shift, a ripple through the air, subtle, wrong, lethal. Valoris's expression changed instantly. All softness vanished, all restraint snapped back into something cold and ancient. "Stay behind me." The command wasn't gentle this time, it was absolute. Nyxara didn't argue, didn't hesitate. Her instinct screamed louder than her pride ever could. The Thornwild darkened. Not naturally, not gently. Something was invading it. A scream tore through the distance, then another. Nyxara's breath caught. "What is that?" Valoris didn't look back. His gaze was fixed on the shadows between the trees. They shouldn't be able to enter. That was worse than an answer. The wind twisted violently. Branches snapped. The ground trembled. And then they appeared. Not wolves, not fae. Something in between. Their bodies were wrong. Too long, too sharp, as if carved from bone and shadow. Eyes glowing with a sickening crimson light. Their movements unnatural, jerking, hunting. Nyxara's stomach twisted. What are they? Valoris's voice dropped. Corrupted. One of the creatures lunged, fast, too fast. Nyxara barely saw it. But Valoris moved faster. He didn't step, didn't dodge. He appeared in front of it. His hand shot out, grabbing the creature mid-air by the throat. For a split second, everything stilled. Then the creature screamed, not in rage, in agony. Light, pure, violent, blinding, burst from Valoris's hand. The thing disintegrated instantly, ash scattering into the wind. Nyxara stared, heart pounding. More came, dozens. And this time, they weren't aiming for him, they were aiming for her. Nyxara, too late. One broke through the line of trees, leaping straight for her. Her body froze, just for a second, a fatal second. But before it could touch her, something snapped. The air itself seemed to fracture. And then, it died, not slowly, not violently, just gone, erased mid-motion. Nyxara blinked, confused, breath caught in her throat. Then she felt it, arms around her, strong, unyielding, dangerously tight. Valoris. She hadn't even seen him move. You don't move when I tell you to stay behind me. His voice was low, deadly calm. Nyxara swallowed. I didn't. Quiet. Not harsh, but final. His grip tightened slightly. Not hurting, but possessive. Protective. Another creature lunged. Valoris didn't even look. It disintegrated mid-air. Another. Gone. Another. Gone. They weren't even reaching him anymore. Because something had changed. The forest itself seemed to respond to him now. Bending. Listening. Destroying. Who sent them? Nyxara whispered. Valoris's jaw clenched. I don't know yet. But his eyes, they burned. Because he had a suspicion. And then, a voice cut through the chaos. Oh, this is disappointing. Nyxara stiffened. That voice, she knew it. From the pack, from the past, from humiliation. Slowly, a figure stepped from the shadows. Perfect, untouched, smiling. Her stepsister. Lyrienne, Nyxara breathed. Lyrienne tilted her head, mock sympathy in her expression. Oh, don't look so surprised, dear sister. Valoris went completely still, dangerously still. You crossed into my territory, he said. Lyrienne smiled wider. And yet, here I am. That wasn't confidence. That was provocation. Nyxara's chest tightened. You sent them? Lyrienne laughed lightly. Not just me. A pause. Then, I had help. The temperature dropped. Valoris's grip around Nyxara tightened, just slightly. From him? He asked coldly. Lyrienne's smile turned sharp. Oh no, she said sweetly. Draven doesn't know. Nyxara's breath caught. Which makes this even more fun. The words sent ice through her veins. You tried to kill me, Nyxara said. Of course I did. No hesitation, no shame. You were supposed to disappear quietly, Lyrienne continued, almost bored. But instead, her gaze flicked to Valoris. You became something inconvenient. The air pulsed, dangerously. Valoris stepped forward, Nyxara still in his arms. You touched what is mine, he said. Lyrienne laughed. Oh, please. She didn't finish. Because the ground beneath her feet cracked, split open. Dark vines, glowing faintly with silver light, shot up, wrapping around her legs, her arms, her throat. Her smile faltered. What? Valoris's eyes glowed faintly now. Not bright, but lethal. I gave no permission for you to exist here, he said. Lyrienne struggled. But the more she fought, the tighter the magic coiled. You think this scares me? She spat. Valoris tilted his head slightly. No, he said. Then his voice dropped. But it should... The vines tightened. Lyrienne gasped, her composure cracking for the first time. Nyxara's heart pounded. This was power. Unquestioned, unchallenged, and terrifying. Wait, Nyxara suddenly said. Valoris stilled. Lyrienne sucked in a breath. Nyxara stepped forward slightly, still within his hold. She said she had help, Nyxara said quickly. Valoris's gaze flicked to her, then back to Lyrian. Who? He demanded. Lyrian smiled again. Even now, even like this, you're too late. Nyxara's stomach dropped. What does that mean? She whispered. Lyrian's eyes gleamed. It means, she said softly, you weren't the only target. Silence. Then, a distant roar echoed through the forest, familiar. Alpha. Nyxara's heart stopped. Draven. Valoris's expression darkened instantly, and then everything changed. Because whatever this was, it wasn't just an attack, it was a war. Valoris's arm tightened around Nyxara, pulling her fully against him now. His voice dropped, not for Lyrian, not for the enemies, but for her. I'm not going anywhere, she whispered. His gaze darkened, something fierce, something dangerous, something devoted. Good, he said quietly. Then, the forest exploded into motion. The forest roared. Magic clashed with something darker, something wrong. The air burned with it. Nyxara barely had time to breathe before Valoris moved. One moment she was standing, the next she was pulled against him as he stepped through shadows themselves, the world bending around his power. They reappeared deeper within the Thornwild. Safer, but not safe. What's happening? She demanded, her voice unsteady. Valoris didn't answer immediately. His focus was split, on her and on everything else. Every inch of his territory responded to him, every disturbance, every threat. Someone is tearing at the borders, he said finally, and they're not doing it alone. Nyxara's chest tightened. My pack? His silence was answer enough. Pain flickered across her face, but before it could grow, a distant crash echoed again, followed by a familiar, furious roar. Draven. Nyxara froze. Her heart twisted painfully. Valoris felt it. Of course he did. His grip on her tightened. Subtle, but firm. You're thinking about it. It wasn't a question. Nyxara swallowed. He's my former mate, Valoris cut in, voice cold. Her jaw tightened. It's not that simple. No, he said quietly. It never is. Silence fell between them again. But this time, it wasn't soft. It was sharp, tense. You still feel something for him, Valoris said. Nyxara's chest rose and fell unevenly. I feel unfinished, she admitted. That answer hit harder than anything else. Valoris's gaze darkened, not with rage, but something deeper, something far more dangerous. Jealousy. You hesitate with me, he said. Nyxara blinked. What? But you don't hesitate when you think about him. That's not true, isn't it? His voice dropped, low, tight, controlled. You almost kissed me, he continued. Then you stopped. Nyxara's heart pounded. And yet, he added, stepping closer, the moment you hear his voice, you freeze. That's different, she said quickly. Explain it to me. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, because she couldn't. Not in a way that made sense. Valoris stepped closer again. Slow, deliberate. You're still tied to him, he said. Nyxara shook her head. No, I'm not. Then prove it. The words hit like a spark to dry flame. Her breath caught. Prove it how? She whispered. Valoris didn't answer with words. He moved, fast. 1 second of distance. Gone the next. His hand caught her waist, pulling her firmly against him. Nyxara gasped softly, but didn't pull away. Stop me, he murmured. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Her fingers instinctively gripped his shirt again. I don't want to, she admitted. That was all it took. Valoris kissed. Not soft, not hesitant, but not rough either. It was controlled intensity. A storm held just barely in check. Nyxara's breath hitched against his lips. For a split second she froze, then she melted. Her hands slid up his chest, clutching him as if grounding herself in something real, something undeniable. His hand tightened at her waist, pulling her closer, closer, until there was no space left between them. The kiss deepened, slow at first, testing, learning, then hungry. Not consuming, not overwhelming, but demanding. Nyxara responded without thinking. Her body leaning into his, her lips parting, breath catching as his presence surrounded her completely. Heat flooded her veins, sharp, addictive, unfamiliar. Valoris made a low sound against her lips, not quite a growl, but close. His control slipped. Just slightly. His hand slid from her waist up her back, pressing her firmly against him. Nyxara gasped softly into the kiss, and instead of pulling away, she kissed him harder. Faster, as if trying to erase every doubt, every memory, every hesitation. The bond between them pulsed, alive, burning. Magic flickered in the air around them, responding, reacting. Valoris broke the kiss suddenly, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. His forehead pressed against hers again, breathing heavier now, less controlled. "Careful," he murmured. Nyxara's chest rose and fell rapidly, her lips still tingling, her thoughts completely scattered. "You told me to prove it," she whispered. His grip tightened. "That wasn't proof," he said quietly. Her breath caught. "Then what is—" His eyes darkened. "Stay," he said. The word was simple, but heavy. "Stay when everything falls apart." Another distant roar echoed. Closer this time. Loud. War was coming. Fast. Nyxara's heart pounded. Her mind screamed at her to run, to think, to choose carefully, but her body, her instincts, her heart, they leaned toward him. "I'm here," she said softly. Valoris searched her face. As if looking for doubt, for hesitation, he found none. Something in him snapped into place. "Then you don't leave my side," he said. Nyxara nodded, and this time, when he pulled her close again, she didn't resist. She held on to him, not because she had to, but because she wanted to, and somewhere in the distance, Draven Kalor felt it. That shift, that bond tightening, that choice being made. And something inside him finally broke. The Alpha King roared, not in rage, but in loss. The war didn't arrive. It erupted. The Thornwild screamed. Magic tore through the sky like fractures in reality itself. Silver and black colliding in violent bursts that shook the ground beneath Nyxara's feet. She stood at the center of it. Not hidden, not protected, chosen. Valoris stood beside her, his presence vast, terrifying in its calm as chaos bent around him instead of touching him. But even he, wasn't untouched. "They're breaking through faster than I expected," he said, voice sharp. Nyxara's chest tightened. "Who are they?" Before he could answer, the sky cracked, not metaphorically, not poetically, it split. A tear of darkness ripped open above the forest, swallowing light, swallowing sound, spilling something ancient and wrong into the world. Nyxara staggered back. "That's not wolves." "No," Valoris said quietly. Something moved inside the rift. Then it stepped out, tall, cloaked in shadow that didn't behave like shadow. Eyes glowing, not red, not gold, void. Nyxara's breath stopped. "It finally found you." The voice wasn't loud, but it echoed everywhere. Inside her mind, inside her bones. Valoris moved instantly, stepping in front of her, blocking, shielding. "You don't belong here," he said coldly. The creature smiled. "Neither does she." Nyxara's heart slammed violently. "What is it?" she whispered. Valoris didn't look back. Something that should have remained sealed. The creature's gaze shifted, landing directly on Nyxara. Recognition flashed. And hunger. "You carry it so carelessly," it murmured. Nyxara's chest tightened. "Carry what?" The creature stepped forward. The ground beneath it withered instantly. "The thing inside you," it said softly. Silence. Then, pain. Nyxara gasped, dropping to her knees as something inside her twisted, not physical, not visible, but real. Valoris turned sharply. "Nyxara," too late. The mark on her wrist burned. No. It blazed. Light burst from her skin, silver, gold, something else, something older. And then, it spread. Up her arm, across her chest, into her veins. Nyxara screamed. Memories that weren't hers flooded her mind. Ancient forests, fey courts, bloodlines that weren't meant to exist anymore. Power buried, locked away, until now. The creature smiled wider. "Yes," it whispered. "There you are." Valoris's expression darkened instantly. "You will not touch her," the creature laughed. "I don't need to." Nyxara's body lifted from the ground. Not by force, by power. Her own. The air around her distorted. Magic bending toward her like it recognized something long forgotten. Valoris stepped forward, but stopped. Because the moment he got too close, the power lashed out. Not at him, but in warning. Nyxara's eyes snapped open. They weren't human anymore. They glowed, ancient, terrifying. Her voice echoed strangely, layered with something else. "I can feel everything. The forest, the magic, the war, the rift, him." Valoris didn't move, didn't reach for her again. But his voice, it softened. "Come back to me." Nyxara's gaze flickered for a moment. She wasn't sure she could. The power inside her surged again, wild, uncontrolled. The creature stepped closer. "Let it consume you," it whispered. Nyxara's breath hitched, because part of her, a terrifying part, wanted to. No. The word came out broken, but real. Valoris's gaze sharpened. "Fight it." "I don't know how," she cried. The power lashed again, this time striking the ground, splitting it open. The forest trembled. "You're stronger than it," he said. "That's easy for you to say." "Nyxara," his voice cut through everything, steady, unyielding. "Look at me." She didn't want to, couldn't, but she did. And in that moment, through all the chaos, through all the power threatening to tear her apart, she saw him, not as a king, not as something untouchable, but as the one constant in a world that had never given her one. "Choose," he said quietly. The creature hissed. "You don't get to choose what you are." Nyxara's chest rose sharply. Maybe not, but she could choose who she became. Her gaze hardened. "No," she said. The power inside her surged one last time, violent, explosive. Then it bent. To her, silence fell. The creature's smile faltered. "That's not possible." Nyxara slowly lowered back to the ground, breathing heavily, but standing, alive, in control. Her eyes still glowed faintly, but now they were hers. "You're wrong," she said quietly. Valoris didn't hesitate this time. He crossed the distance, grabbing her, pulling her firmly against him. This time, she didn't resist the power. She leaned into him. And the magic, it settled, as if it recognized him too. The creature stepped back. For the first time, uncertain. "This isn't over," it said. "No," Valoris replied coldly. "It isn't." The rift began to close, slowly, reluctantly, but not before the creature's gaze locked onto Nyxara one last time. "You'll break eventually." Then it was gone. Silence fell again, but this time it wasn't fragile. It was aftermath. Nyxara's body trembled. Valoris's arms tightened around her. "You didn't lose yourself," he said quietly. She let out a shaky breath. "I almost did, but you didn't." Her fingers gripped his shirt again. "I chose," she whispered. "Yes," he said. A pause, then softer. "You chose me." Nyxara didn't answer, but she didn't pull away either, and that was enough, far beyond the Thornwild. Draven Kalor fell to one knee. The bond, gone, severed completely, and for the first time in his life, the Alpha King felt truly alone. The world did not end in fire. It ended in silence. The Thornwild stood still. No screams, no tearing magic, no monsters clawing their way through broken skies, just aftermath. Nyxara stood at its center, not as the girl who had been rejected, not as the girl who had been claimed, but as something entirely new. The faint glow beneath her skin had not disappeared. It pulsed softly now, controlled, alive. Valoris stood beside her, not in front, not shielding her, beside her, equal. "You're different," he said quietly. Nyxara let out a slow breath. "I feel different. Not overwhelmed, not consumed, awakened." Before either of them could say more, the forest shifted. A presence approached, familiar, heavy. Nyxara turned. Draven Kalor stepped into the clearing. He looked nothing like the Alpha King who had rejected her. His clothes were torn. Blood stained his hands, his aura fractured. But his eyes, they were locked onto her. Nyxara, her name sounded different on his tongue now. Not dismissive, not careless. Desperate. Valoris didn't move, but the air around him darkened instantly. "You shouldn't be here," he said coldly. Draven ignored him. His gaze never left Nyxara. "I felt it break," he said. Nyxara's chest tightened slightly. "The bond, gone." "I know," she said softly. Silence stretched between them, heavy, unfinished. Draven took a step forward. "I made a mistake." Valoris's expression turned lethal. Nyxara didn't react, not the way she once would have. "I know," she said again. "That wasn't forgiveness. That was truth." Draven's jaw tightened. "I chose wrong." "Yes," she said. Another step, closer now. "But I can fix it," he said quickly. That made something in her finally shift. "No," Nyxara said. Draven froze. "No?" he echoed. You can't fix it, she said calmly. Her voice didn't shake, didn't break, because this time, she wasn't speaking from pain, she was speaking from clarity. You didn't just reject me, she continued. You humiliated me. You chose someone else in front of everyone. Draven's expression cracked. I was wrong. And now you're here because you lost me, she cut in, silence. Because that was the truth. Not love, not regret, loss. Nyxara took a step forward, not toward him, but into herself. I'm not something you can come back for when it's convenient, she said. Draven's voice broke slightly. I never stopped. Don't, she said. Firm, final, whatever you think you feel now, she added. It's not enough to undo what you did. The words landed, heavy, unavoidable. Draven's shoulders dropped slightly for the first time. The Alpha King looked small. Then what happens now, he asked. Nyxara held his gaze. You live with your choice. Silence. Then, he nodded, slowly. Not because he accepted it, but because he had no power to change it. And for once, power didn't matter. He turned and walked away. No dramatic exit, no final claim, just a man who had lost something he could never get back. The forest breathed again. Nyxara stood still for a long moment. Then, she exhaled, and something inside her finally settled. Valoris stepped closer, not touching, not claiming, just there. Are you all right? He asked. Nyxara looked at him, really looked at him. The Fey King, the most powerful being in the territory, the one who could have taken everything from her, but didn't. I am, she said softly. A pause. Then, I chose. Valoris's gaze darkened slightly. Yes, he said. But this time, she added, stepping closer to him, I didn't choose because I was hurt. His breath stilled slightly. I chose because I wanted to. That was different. Valoris searched her face, as if making sure, as if waiting for hesitation. He found none. Then say it, he said quietly. Nyxara smiled faintly. Not shy, not uncertain, certain. I choose you. The words settled between them. Not heavy. Right. Valoris didn't move immediately, because this time, he wasn't taking. He was receiving. Slowly, he reached for her, and this time, she met him halfway. Their lips met, not desperate, not proving anything, just real, deep, steady, certain. Nyxara's hands slid up to his shoulders, his arms wrapped around her, firm, grounding, but never trapping. The bond between them pulsed, not burning, not consuming, balanced, chosen. The forest responded, light flickering softly through the trees, magic settling into something peaceful. As if the world itself recognized, a queen had risen, not by birth, not by claim, but by choice. Valoris pulled back slightly, resting his forehead against hers. My queen, he murmured. Nyxara smiled softly, not because of the title, but because of what it meant, not ownership, not power, partnership. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't standing in someone else's shadow, she was the light. The Thornwild did not host weddings, it witnessed them. The forest had never looked like this. Silver-veined blossoms bloomed along every branch, glowing softly like captured starlight. Vines curled into arches without being touched, shaping a path that led to a clearing older than memory itself. Magic thrummed beneath everything, not wild, not violent, joyful. Nyxara stood at the center of it all. She wore no heavy crown, no suffocating gold. Instead, living vines wove gently through her hair. Tiny, luminous flowers blooming along the strands like constellations woven into night. Her dress flowed like moonlight, soft, shifting, alive. She didn't look like a queen made by a throne. She looked like one chosen by the world itself. You're staring. Nyxara smiled without turning. I can feel it. Valoris stepped behind her, his presence still powerful, still dangerous, but now. It was hers too. I've ruled for centuries, he murmured near her ear. And yet this feels new. Nyxara turned slightly, meeting his gaze. That's because this time, she said softly, you're not ruling alone. Something in his expression shifted, deep, unspoken. Never again, he said. The ceremony wasn't loud. There were no crowds, no spectacle, only those who mattered. Xaereth watched with a knowing smile, her violet eyes gleaming like she had predicted every moment. Kelthorin stood silent, but steady, a rare hint of approval in his expression. Even the Thornwild itself seemed to lean close, as if witnessing something rare. Not a union of power, but a union of choice. Valoris took her hand, slowly, reverently. "Nyxara," he said, voice quieter than it had ever been. Not a command, not a claim, a vow. Her heart tightened. "And I choose you," she replied. The bond flared, not violently, brilliantly, light wrapped around them, weaving into something ancient and sacred. Not ownership, equality. And when he kissed her, it wasn't fire, it was home. Years later, the Thornwild had changed. It grew brighter, stronger, alive in a way it had never been before, because it had a queen who listened, and a king who had learned to. Nyxara stood beneath the same trees, but she wasn't the same girl. A small hand tugged at her dress. "Mother." She looked down. A little girl with glowing silver-gold eyes stared up at her, curious and far too perceptive for her age. "Again," the child demanded. Nyxara laughed softly. "You've heard the story 100 times. I like it," the girl insisted. Another voice joined in, lower, mischievous. "She likes the part where you nearly destroyed the forest." Nyxara glanced up. Valoris leaned casually against a tree, watching them. Their son stood beside him, older, quieter, but with the same dangerous stillness his father carried. "I did not nearly destroy the forest," Nyxara said. "You split the ground open," Valoris replied. "That was one time," their daughter gasped dramatically. "You broke the forest?" Nyxara crouched, brushing hair from the girl's face. "I saved it." Valoris stepped closer. "And yourself," he added quietly. Their eyes met, the same way they always had, steady, certain. Years hadn't dulled it, if anything. It had deepened. "Tell us the rest," their son said. Nyxara smiled and began. Not the story of rejection, not the story of pain, but the story of choice, and how it changed everything. The forest listened, the magic settled, and for a moment, everything was exactly as it should be, happily ever after. Epilogue. But peace is a fragile thing, and not every story ends with letting go. The night was too quiet. Nyxara felt it before she saw it, that same ripple, that same wrongness. Her body tensed instantly. "Valoris, I know." The shadows shifted. Then he stepped out, Draven Kalor, but not the man who had walked away. Something darker, something broken. His eyes glowed, not gold, black. "You think it's over?" he said softly. Valoris moved instantly, positioning himself in front of Nyxara. "It is." Draven smiled. "No," he said. "It just started." The air twisted violently. Nyxara's breath caught. "That power inside you." Draven continued, gaze locking onto her. "You think you control it?" Her chest tightened. "You don't." Valoris's voice dropped. "Say what you came to say." Draven's smile widened. "I didn't lose her," he said. Silence. Then, "I was separated from her." Nyxara's stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" she demanded. Draven stepped closer. Unafraid. "Did you really think your bond breaking was natural?" he asked. The world stilled. Valoris's expression darkened instantly. "No," he said slowly. Nyxara's heart began to pound. "What does that mean?" she whispered. Draven's eyes gleamed. "It means," he said softly, "someone made sure I lost you." A pause. Then, "And now I know who." The forest trembled. Magic shifted uneasily. Nyxara's voice shook. "Who?" Draven's gaze slid, not to her, to Valoris. Silence, heavy, dangerous. "No," Nyxara breathed. Valoris didn't speak, didn't deny it, and that was enough. The ground beneath them cracked. "Tell me I'm wrong," Nyxara whispered. Valoris finally looked at her. Not cold, not distant, but something far worse. Honest. "I made sure you were free," he said. The words hit like a blade. Draven laughed. "Free?" he mocked. "You severed a bond you had no right to touch." Nyxara stepped back, heart racing, mind spiraling. "You chose for me?" she asked, voice breaking. Valoris stepped forward. "I chose to give you a chance to choose," he said. "That wasn't your choice to make." Silence. Because she was right. The bond inside her pulsed, unstable, conflicted. Draven stepped closer. "You feel it, don't you?" he said softly. Nyxara froze. Because she did. Something Not gone, just buried. What did you do to me? She whispered. Valoris's voice dropped. I protected you, or you stole me, she shot back. The forest trembled. The bond between her and Valoris flickered. For the first time, uncertain, Draven smiled slowly. Now you see it, he murmured. Nyxara's breath came faster. Everything she thought she knew, everything she chose, was it real or was it shaped? Valoris reached for her. Nyxara, she stepped back. And that was what broke everything. The ground split open, magic surged wildly, the sky darkened. And deep within her, something ancient stirred again. Not controlled this time, not gentle, dangerous, unleashed. Nyxara's eyes flared with light. I don't know who to trust, she said. Her voice echoed, not entirely her own. Valoris stilled. Draven's smile widened. Then don't choose, he said. The power inside her surged violently. And this time, it didn't listen. The end. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you loved it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more amazing content. Drop a comment with your favorite moment, and I'll see you in the next one.